Thank you so much. So I'm Robert, one of the co-founders of KleenHub. We are a Copenhagen-based impact startup, and we are fighting single-use packaging. So we are accelerating the transition into reusable packaging, working specifically actually with these noted SDGs here, number 11, 12, 13, and 14, but the core is responsible consumption and production, SDG number 12. Why are we doing this? I mean, this was mentioned today already, and also Adam is working on this. One thing is single-use has failed us. So it's a huge issue. Single-use packaging, you consume a coffee, or like a beverage or like food, and within a certain amount of time, around 20 minutes, it's waste. And then the value of it is so low that it's not really a recycling infrastructure out there. I know Adam is working on it. But in the end, it's not there yet, and it's a massive problem. Also, the media really realized that it's not a silver bullet. We can't just replace regular plastic with bioplastic, because it's just not possible to recycle. So we have to go basically back to a model where we prevent the waste, and this is basically only done with reusing, having a product which can be reused over and over again and can cut down on these huge waste volumes. So we're doing this reusable moment basically enabled with technology. So 2 years ago, we launched an app here in Denmark, in Copenhagen, which made it easy to borrow and return reusable packaging. As you can see, these metal cups we have for coffee, and then these bowls here on the right. So this is basically the program, and it was one of the first companies working with app and a digital return system for reusable packaging. And by doing this and basically scaling up in here in Copenhagen, we learned a lot, and this brings us to this little pivot I'm presenting here today. Right now, we're working with different segments. So we have on the left side cafes and restaurants. So there's more sustainable coffee chains, vegan, vegetarian food chains, which have around 15 items per location. Then we're working also with universities, so all the big Danish universities here in Copenhagen, real estate companies, and so on. And recently we launched also with corporate sites. So we know Nordea, Danske Bank, Maersk, United Nations. So we know some of these corporate clients using our system in their corporate offices. And basically by working in these different segments, you really understand that there's like not one solution fits all. And of course, we had to strip down the product to a certain level, because we kind of over-engineered also our system to fit all in these different segments. But just to briefly give you an update on basically how our revenue model works for now and also will in the future. So we have, of course, the corporate side, like the restaurants, the cafe, they are basically replacing single-use with reusables, and they are the one we monetize on, or especially, of course, the ones with the big volumes, so like the corporate universities and so on. And then there is also a fee when reusable packaging is not returned, because it's very, very important that basically reusable packaging, because they have a way higher impact than single-use packaging, because they have this break-even point, and that they circulate as long as possible in the system, and then basically prevent as much as waste as possible. So we also have a fee if the product is not returned. But now the product I want to pitch to you today. So basically the whole thing, which single use is apparently still the most convenient. You consume something, throw it away, but of course you have waste management behind it. Huge amount of resources and energy are lost here. And you need to basically get to reusables on the same level of convenience to make an impact and to switch here. And we're doing this with these new game-changing innovations. So basically, it's a digital solution. It's present and a counter, and in basically 10 to 50 times faster than any reusable system out there. And
1 minute warning.
It's extremely simple. It's the most convenient way to borrow reusable packaging. It basically works with a tap of a credit card and ready to go. This is exactly what you need to make a big impact here in this solution. Also with this, we introduce a smart cup, so basically a unique product able to track the individual performance of a product and connect it to a user, to an app, or to a credit card, and make sure to understand the flows of these things. And yes, so we are raising 0.4 million US dollars. We already got 2,000 US dollars recently from a business angel right before Christmas, and now we wanted to add it up to basically bring this pivot to market and then able to attract a Series C funding afterwards. Yes, that's us. Last slide, funding team. Me as a German guy living in Denmark, and by two co-founders, Simon and Giuseppe from Italy. I think that's the last one. Yep.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Robert. I'll bring in the other investors. And while we do, can you explain a little bit more about the actual system? So you didn't get real deep into that. It was more interesting via email when we had our back and forth. So can you share a little bit more how that works?
Exactly. So I don't want to spend too much time on the old solution because this is kind of something we kind of replacing. Let me explain. The new one is basically a hardware device standing on the counter, and you can just with the tap of your credit card or Apple Pay or Google Pay, you can rent reusable packaging, and so that's all you need. You create an account there. So you basically right now we operate it. You how to download an app and basically register, use, scan, and return the packaging. We're basically moving the app from the user's phone on this device and make it extremely fast and accessible. And then of course behind is like a some new technology with payments and financing, all these things included. But yeah, we're switching away from just because right now the system is you rent with an app packaging, reusable packaging for free for 10 days. We can return to all partners in the network and borrow it. And this will be, of course, the same system. We just remove this massive complexity at the beginning to download an app and register. And if you not return within 10 days, we charge a fee and you buy out the packaging, but we have a 98% return rate. So you can clearly see the system works over 2 years with around 140 partners here in 2 countries.
Just to make sure I understand, I walk up to the counter, I tap my credit card, I get a cup, I take my cup, I go for a walk, and 2 days later, I bring it back to XYZ other location, and I'm good to go.
Exactly. Only if you exceed more than 10 days, you get charged for the cup, and we send you reminders to your phone number.
And why is no one else doing this currently? What's the competition landscape look like?
Competition landscape is either a digital system as we have right now, so app-based. There are some in Germany, mostly actually in Germany, or a deposit-based system where you pay €1 and get a plastic cup. There's a lot of pros and cons, and we try to combine basically with the ease of just paying €1 for a plastic cup with kind of the app where you have all the technology, the data, and all these things, and make it as successful as possible. So there are more and more startups popping up in Europe, mostly Germany, Sweden, Switzerland, and so on. So there's a kind of a gold rush into these reusable packaging now because of laws introduced or like the huge scale of the problem. But kind of the core technology as we will move away from app-based towards these new device. This is completely new in this field.
Yeah, app-based is terrible. Do you have any IP for the system? Because it clearly is more efficient than what I've seen, but it also sounds copyable.
Yes, we're working on it right now, actually, with potential research. We just built the MVP, tested it, got some feedback. Now we're working on securing that and making sure that can't be copied. We don't have it yet, but we're already in the process.
Got a few questions to follow on there. Robert, this is really an interesting idea. One of the challenges I've seen in companies doing something like this is the return collection and cleaning piece, because I bring it back and I may have left my coffee in it for 4 days and it's kind of gross. How are you dealing with that? And are you having collection points sort of scattered throughout a city, or is the collection point the coffee shop or wherever that I originally acquired the vessel?
Yes, right now it's completely decentralized. So we return it to the restaurants, the cafes, the universities, so all of our partners, and they do localize the washing because that's also the only sustainable, financially and environmental sustainable model in the beginning when you scale up. Of course, after some when you have the right volumes, you can then decentralize and wash it in a certain place and do the logistics as well. But for now, in Denmark, we're not there yet. And that's also the goal to scale up. So once the locations, especially the universities and the corporate sites, can't wash by themselves, you need to introduce like these reverse logistics and wash separately. Yeah.
And are you seeing uptake from the customers just because it feels like the right thing to do, or is there a cost savings for them relative to the newly incurred cost of having to deal with and wash these vessels?
Basically both. So definitely the right thing to do, branding and the awareness in general about plastic. One thing is, of course, laws. So especially in Germany, there's a law since the beginning of the year. Sweden is coming next year. UK banned something recently. So there are some laws working this direction. Also, the EU has a law. Then it's kind of this race for compliance that the company tried to understand now. We're talking with Nestle and with Coca-Cola and all these ones, because they will be impacted the most when a law like this is coming. And of course, they are also the slowest one to change. And they want to understand, of course, what's out there. They are scoping right now the market, understanding which solution works for which segment or which customer journey, because of course, a cinema has a different customer journey than a fast food place or a gas station.
And shifting a bit, that 400K, where is that going? That's not a ton of money. So what are you doing with it?
No, this is completely, we're quite efficient when it comes to money. We just hired a CTO at the beginning of the year, and we're in the process of hiring a developer on top of that. And we then, with these guys, we're basically building the MVP to commercial scale. So we already have the product, we just need to build the software for that. And that's basically also be building the smart cup, as I mentioned also very briefly, having these reusable plastic cup optimized for circularity. So especially with you mentioned before, like hygiene and so on. So it's basically optimized for drying, for airflow and so on. So there won't be mold or anything when you stack it. And also we're working with a big bank here in Denmark to produce it for their internal use. So we able with quite sufficient funds, or not sufficient, but with cheap funds to make it work. And then we plan to raise around 1 to 2 million euros later that year. So once this kind of technology is proven and protected, and the cap is developed with the chip inside, to scale up and bring it to other countries.
To become the most convenient solution, you need like a lot of availability. Like I don't want to run 10 kilometers to bring back my cup. So you have to be focused on B2B and B2C. So what are the challenges in those two perspectives?
Absolutely. So we started this year in a neighborhood with 10 to 30 partners, and then we grow quite significantly. So now here, for example, Copenhagen, we have a good density, and it's absolutely right. So you can supply this, of course. I think one of the convenience part is also the return. So it doesn't have to be back to the cafe. It could be also like return station, placed at like train stations and bigger meetups. But yeah, we started open world, basically with cafes throughout the city. We focused on the neighborhood, so kind of trying to get one neighborhood, get the density, move to the next one, not suddenly spread over a city. And with corporates, or what we see also with universities and so on, it's basically even though you have the option to return it to whatever 140 partners we have here, it's still mostly inclusive. So because of the convenience to go to work every day, and so most of the returns are happening at the place where you borrow. So actually kind of independent, you don't need this big network. And we also tested it with cities outside here of Copenhagen, where we just supply it, and then you have a kind of a closed loop in their little city without having this big network and this convenience connected to it.
Robert, I was pretty interested whenever you said that some of the largest affected, organizations or communities out there, for example, would be like, some of the soda companies like PepsiCo. Are there other partnerships that you're looking to that I feel like could really benefit you and them? I mean, one of the startups that I worked with was trying to do something similar to this, but instead of like with the cup aspect, they tried it with, I think, a little too many things, and they tried renting out materials. But there are a couple like, event planning businesses that have these sort of, rentability dishes, cups. Are there any sort of partnerships that you guys are leveraging to solve some of the stuff that Armin mentioned, and make sure that, they're just readily available everywhere, or they, offset some costs, or they even provide certain customers to you?
Yeah, absolutely. There are basically the key players in this field, especially for food, it's food delivery companies like a Volt you have here in Europe, Just Eat, and all these ones, because you have all the restaurants already part in this app, and basically integrating to them. So basically, Volt, Just Eat, and also of course Too Good To Go, if you know the app for leftover food. So these are ones. And of course, another big card player is because we're building this technology, and also there is, as I mentioned, for example, in Germany, some systems analog, you pay €1 and you line. They have around 20,000 partners in Germany, so it's definitely the biggest one in that field. And they still like kind of in an analog world. They have to switch at some point to digital payments, to credit cards, to Apple Pay, Google Pay, and so on. And this is also something we believe would be a good possibility to provide them our technology, and basically providing them a white label solution So in this kind of gold rush right now, we want to provide them the picks and the shovels and not really run other systems in Europe where it's already operated by them. Kind of providing the technology they can move away from the deposit.
Then why are you raising only 400,000?
It's just for developing the product right now, building the product, making commercial available, and then we're raising more. So this is kind of just, so kind of we see it as a bridge round because last year was quite tough to raise funds, and we just did it like a month ago, kind of. And now we really looking forward to exceed the runways. We also here this year will be a tough year. What we heard, we have some soft funding applications on the side, and just to extend our runway, be able to build VC ready, because we already spoke with many VCs, mostly German and Nordic ones, and now we know kind of what they're looking for, especially with the technology side. And once we're ready, we plan to of course raise more and be able to aggressively supply this to Germany or to other countries around the world.
Is your IP going to be a design patent or a utility patent? So what exactly are you patenting?
Yeah, it's for the German market. It will be more like these. It's called like Gebrauchsmuster. So it's basically a utility pattern, like how it's working. The European pattern, I can't really tell you what now, because it's the lawyer looking at it right now and checking how it can be protected in what way. So, but for the German market, it's like kind of the combination of everything, and the global one or the European one. It's under construction.
What I'm asking is it basically a patent for one tap checkout of a cup? Because that's what it sounds like. And if that's what it is, it's very cool. And if that's not what it is, then a lot of people can basically copy it.
Yeah, that's also the scope, how you put the patent, how broad you make it, how narrow. Of course, it's kind of also connected to the chip in the bottom of the cup. How this is kind of connected, how it works with all the payments involved, the credit card transactions, Apple Pay, and all these things. But this is all I can unfortunately say.
Is there something specific that you guys are doing with that data? I know you mentioned it a little bit previously, and I was sort of curious as to what you guys are doing. It partnerships, sales, does it help with growth? Just kind of curious as to what you guys are looking into.
Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of what we do right now. So more applying to the solution we have right now. So through the app, we of course know who the customers are. We kind of see the patterns, where they get a coffee when they return. So I think it's quite valuable data. Having, of course, also payment from all the users. So that's also something we want in the future. Want to harvest, for example, with loyalty, because each time we borrow, you basically can get all these stamp cards for our coffee. This is something you can connect, of course. And the initial idea is, of course, make it as easy as possible, just having with the credit card. But through this, of course, if you want, you can still later have an app or kind of a solution where you find all the partners and so on. So the core is to make it as simple as possible to use it if you want to. And then additionally on top, build the app where then you have an account and it can connect even more. And for us, of course, the possibility to get better data, understand. And for us, also important through the data, knowing, okay, where are the cups going? Where are the cups? This is something we see in our system right now. So we see, okay, this restaurant or this cafe is running out of cups, and this one has to match. So kind of to optimize a bit the logistics and the back end. And then, of course, with enough data, we can predict it and basically make sure, or even guide it. So we see this place is running low, you get a discount and so on. But there's a lot of ways to do it. And that's also why we build it, because data is super, super important for the system, to understand it, to improve the system. And of course, it's able to create some value for the user and of course for the cafe and restaurant partners.
That's right. So 400 is raised, let's say tomorrow. What are the two things that you're excited about that you're going to accomplish at the end of this year?
This year, of course, raising this round, or like a big round, and getting substantial investment. Most excited is to build this, to finalize this product and roll it out. Afterwards is the international expansion. We already scoped the markets. We have some interest from Latin America, from the other European countries, Sweden and Netherlands and Portugal. And so really, I think it's really expansion to other markets, building this product as markup and this KleenHub Express, as we call it, and raising funds to be able to speed up the process. Because in this case, it's definitely a speed game. It's absolutely execution. And of course, good when you have some protected technology as well.
As you're talking about that scaling, I'm curious, if I understood you right, you're going essentially neighborhood to neighborhood, building out your partners who are the depots or the deployment hubs for these devices, how would you expand to, for example, Latin America or the Netherlands or wherever that you are not based if you have to go on a neighborhood basis? What's the scaling plan look like for team and?
Yeah. So this, this neighborhood model was the current scaling with our app solution, which we're using in the last 2 years here in Denmark and in Spain. Especially for Latin America, we have possibility with Rio de Janeiro in Brazil and also in Bogota to launch something. So we'll be with a local partner, and basically we want to be packaging as a service, so providing the software afterwards. So we're not going with a local team rolling it out. There's a lot of interest in the market. There are even some small startups trying something with waste management. So we want to provide the tools you need, providing the software, providing the knowledge, and then able to have local partners doing basically the dirty work, because we can't be present in all these markets. And for example, the other European countries, Sweden, we see Nestle there as a big driver in southern Sweden to do it. It's something we provide them. And this question was asked before from one of you guys, basically how we see exit, and that's exactly the thing, like seeing either like bigger food processor, like food and drink, like beverage companies or food processors like Nestle, Coca-Cola, scooping up technology to integrate, because they have internal goals as well to switch to refillable and reusable packaging, or like delivery companies or anything in this case. This is how we see them, how we scale up. So it will be a different scaling model than we have currently with our app in Denmark and Spain.
If you fail, why will it be?
Oh, that's a very good question. We were close to failing many times already. That's why we learned. So I'm kind of confident that not that it will be this to these areas again. But I still the biggest risk is probably still funds, like technology will, because it's definitely technology to do it. Raising not specific, raising too much, raising too little, especially in this environment we have right now. I think we see it quite critical. Otherwise, the legislation team or others, we are quite confident to be. But I think it's definitely running out of funds before able to make it big enough.
Especially in a blitzkrieg market like this, where you kind of have to conquer, and there'll be a lot of players.
Yeah, still the market is huge. It's so much packaging. It's like a huge market. I mean, it was mentioned before by others. So it's a massive market. So, but it's still also, for example, Germany is for me always the closest market to Denmark, also as a German. But seeing there is like two bigger players working on the field, but still not having reached around 10%. I think Germany uses 3.8 billion, for example, single-use coffee cups a year. And they maybe in total, some of them have replaced like 5 million. So that is a massive gap already in there. And they can't scale it off. And it won't be, beginning, it will be many partners out there. I guess it's like more scooter sharing model, huge partners out there. And then over the years, it will consolidate. And we see already that the big packaging companies actually who provide single-use packaging are looking and seeing and waiting basically who will be the survivors of this kind of packaging game, even though it will take a while, and then maybe integrate it as well. This could be also one exit maybe of the startups as well.
When will you pilot or test out the B2B model of being the packaging as a service for other packaging company model?
We do now pilots soon, basically around a month with the current existing solution in Portugal. So this is kind of the first one where we supply a white label for that. And with that we provided to other startups in the field, that's not 100% decided yet. And of course, we need to build the solution first. And also it's kind of a bit stealth as much as we do. But the goal is around mid in the summer, basically. So now the next 2 months, finalizing the project, testing as much as possible, and then having a ready to scale model and rolling it out. And this will be one of the first ones we will also reach out to. And we already have these connections because of the markets we're in.